Good morning, good afternoon, guys, and welcome back to another Geek Tavern. As always, it's me, Shawn, and I'm joined by Mike.
Hello.
And Aaron. And today we will be traveling into outer space with my recommendation, 2014 film directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Matthew McConaughey, by the name of Interstellar.
Weirdest
Spoiler
Lincoln
recommendation.
commercial I've ever watched.
Yeah, it was the strangest Lincoln commercial I've ever seen. So, spoiler discussion for this ahead. I'll start with the synopsis, obviously. Basically, in a near-future Earth, humanity is slowly dying. Blight is attacking different forms of crops, so humanity is slowly going to starve. And NASA scientists basically recruit a former NASA pilot in order to send a mission through a wormhole that appeared 48 years ago at the beginning of the present story, and into a different galaxy to find inhabitable planets that mayhaps be salvageable. And during their mission back on Earth, NASA scientist, is going to try and crack his gravity equation in order to send a silo that will be able to save humanity through the wormhole into this new inhabitable planet. Basically, a story on how to save humanity. And we follow that main character, Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey, who's the pilot. I know that this is the first time that you two have watched the movie, so I would like to know what you think.
You want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
To keep this one on the mild side, here's your one per PG-13. It's a mind fuck. Or at least that's how it hit me. I don't know what Aaron had thought, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, where's this story gonna go? Like, I was intrigued, for the exploration, but like everything that happens after they find Mr. or was it Dr. Man?
Dr. Man. Mr. Man.
Mr. Man, Dr. Man, same thing.
Dr. Hugh Man.
Yeah, but like from that point on, it's just like, holy shit, So I thoroughly, not to go into our exact thoughts, but like I thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I too enjoyed it. There really wasn't I don't have a lot of complaints about Christopher Nolan's movies, so I didn't really have any complaints with this movie. Except for one that you had the same complaint with. But I didn't hate it. I just thought it was also kind of dumb. But at least I got a laugh out of the one part leading up to that. But yeah, it was a good movie. I think that the sound mixing, the music was sometimes louder than the dialogue.
Yeah.
This is becoming a trend with Christopher Nolan's films where, it's just further and further getting worse, where the sound mixing is so off. The audio of the actors' dialogue is so low, and the score is so elevated, which can work, especially in this film, especially during super intense moments where the score is it's just brr, brr, in your face. But yeah, that is a big problem I have with the movie too.
Christopher Nolan likes to take the Hans Zimmer dial and just continue to turn it up through the scene.
Yeah, basically.
And then cut it entirely.
Yeah.
Whether it was something, I think it was when Cooper was recording a video message, and then he turns it off and the music just stops.
It was after he was receiving video messages from his son.
Right.
After he came back from the water planet. And
yeah, I was wondering, I probably just misinterpreted it or whatever. But I thought that they put that in there just because it's so the dead silence of space. So yeah. I thought I looked at it as if they put it in the videos.
Yeah, it's an artistic choice. That's the way that he does movies. That's his artistic choice of music versus actual sound in the movies. But I kind of liked that because in that scene in particular, because it was more him sitting there feeling almost like, you know, things are normal, and
And,
then as soon as it shuts off,
Yeah.
like the music shuts off and it's dead silent.
Matthew McConaughey is excellent in that scene too, where he's just like reacting to Tom's messages through like 23 years.
Right.
He's just like he's happy to see him at first, and then you see him like start to break down and cry because he's like missed his son's life.
Yeah.
And his daughter's life. And he missed the birth of his grandchildren, and then like the final message that Tom says is like, you know, my wife Lisa says that I gotta let you go, so I'm letting you go. And he's like, no, don't. I'm still here. But they can't communicate back from their endurance back to Earth.
Right.
It's only one-way messages.
Yeah, since they've gone through the wormhole.
Yeah.
It's hard to transmit.
Yeah, he's
back.
so good in that scene.
Yeah, that, and I've seen clips of that scene, not so much, really, just the Matthew McConaughey side of it. I've seen. But one thing that I realized while watching this, it was the scene where Cooper is talking to, I forget the other.
Case or Tars?
No, the black guy.
Oh, Romley.
Romley, yeah. Like you can tell he's uneasy with being in space, and he gives him his headphones, and then we find out he was listening to like storm sounds, like
It's things that would remind him of Earth.
Yeah.
Kind of like settle him.
And in that moment, I don't know, I realized how much I would not enjoy space travel.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially like they were in like cryo for like 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a fucking long time.
Just a very long time.
Yeah.
So
that would be scary. That would be scary just to go into like that deep sleep. Because
Yeah.
you're like, am I gonna wake up?
yeah,
Is
I mean,
the
you
ship
have,
gonna get hit by a asteroid or something like that?
you
know?
have Tars in case to make sure that you wake up, but
Yeah.
that is true. You never know. But I had mentioned this to both of you before we watched it. So upon my first viewing of the movie, I was like totally all in until a certain point during the climax, and it lost me completely, which was the scene where Coop drops through the wormhole, or the black hole, excuse me, and then he shows up as the ghost that basically tells Murph like how to solve everything.
Yeah.
Because I was approaching the movie from it's so scientifical, like the entire movie. It's like based in science.
Like a almost based reality.
Yeah,
reality
like,
based.
like reality-based science.
Yeah.
Basically, like throughout the entire film, like even with like the relative time of like time distortion, and then I know that we don't know what's behind a black hole, but he dropped through the black hole, and then magic happens.
Books.
Yeah, and
Which you know, I about laughed my ass off when he showed up and I saw the books. And I was like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me! Like I was just laughing about it.
So I soured on that the very first time. I to the extent of I was having like very heated arguments with friends of mine during like a lunch period because I was in college at the time. I was like practically screaming
And
in the
everybody liked
cafeteria.
it? Everybody else liked it? Or?
Well, the person I was talking to, was being forgiving of it, but I was like very heated about it. I was like, "You've got to be fucking kidding me!" And upon the rewatch, I have to say I softened to it a bit because, like, obviously going into it now, I knew what was happening. Like I knew, like from the very beginning, like the time or the gravity distortions and like everything like happening with the bookcase. I knew that it was Coop the whole time.
And I mean, like I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Because you told me long ago that like there's the last 15 minutes are just like nope. But when that happened, I was like, oh my fucking god. Like I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine because it worked. It's
the power of love aspect that gets me angry.
Yeah, tied back to what...
Yeah, and I realize now that they were setting that up with Dr. Brand's speech.
Right.
But, like, and then you think about it, too. Like, you said you softened to it. I thought it was weird and a little goofy, but at the same time, when I was thinking about it, I was like, it's a black hole. It's space-time distortion. Who knows where he could have ended up? Like there's no possible way of knowing. He could have shown up in between dimensions and been that ghost because it's a rip in space and time. So he could be there, when his daughter's 5 or whatever, knocking books off. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all like that. That's not scientific because
Right.
we don't know. But the theory of that, like the thought of that, is intriguing enough to continue to watch.
I'm not gonna lie. I love that shit.
Yeah.
No, when I thought about it, I was like, it's not bad.
I'm not gonna lie. I straight up hated it the first time I
Yeah.
saw it. I was like, this is the stupidest fucking thing.
And I can
I've ever
see
seen.
I can see how somebody would feel that way. I don't know, like all the time and everything. Like I love that shit. So
Yeah.
like
It was intriguing, especially the very beginning. Like the first time I saw it, like the gravity, like the lines and gravity, like spelling like where to go to the NASA base, and then obviously like the Morse code of like Coop trying to get Murph to get him to stay because he's like, I missed your entire life. There's so much just like emotional impact behind the entire aspects of the movie. So like, first of all, they're gone for 2 years. Like it's a 2-year voyage. So he knew that he was going to miss at least 2 years of his kid's life. And then because of a time distortion that one of the inhabited planets is like so close to, I forget what the name of the black hole was. It was like
Gargantua.
Yeah, Gargantua. The time is like completely different on that planet than what it is.
24 hours was what?
No,
20
1
1
hour.
hour,
1
7
hour.
years.
7 years.
Yeah, so they go down and they're like probing out, and then
Which they were wrong about, right?
what?
Because when they come back,
Well, they weren't there for 2 hours per se. Well, they were there for like 2 hours, or at least that's what we're led to believe.
okay, they don't specifically say, do they? Like how long they were there?
So after
Actually, they would have been there for 3 hours. Because 23
Well, that's
years
why I was
had
wondering.
passed.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering if they ended up being wrong about the 7 years
Right.
to an hour.
Probably, because when they came back, they're like 23 years has passed. It's like, how? You were
Right.
there like an hour and some change.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because all they were waiting for was the engines to drip out.
yeah, and Case said that it was going to take about 45 minutes for that to happen. And then obviously, it's a movie. They're not going to sit there for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And it is like one take basically of like Dr. Brand and Coop arguing with each other because obviously Cooper's doing this all for his family. He wants to save humanity. He wants to make sure that his kids can live in a world where they don't have to worry about starving or suffocating to death because of a dust bowl. And Dr. Brand is like, she was doing it for the sake of the mission. She wanted to get the findings of Dr. Marissa, was it? Or Miller, Dr. Miller. He wanted to get Dr. Miller's information, and then it ended up costing Doyle his life because he got washed away on the wave.
Which was just kind of a comedic shot.
Yeah. I was telling Aaron,
I don't understand how
that makes me angry
it.
too. Yeah, that makes me angry because so Dr. Brand is running out to the wreckage and trying to pull the thing, and then Koopa's like, or is it Case or Tars that was with him?
I think it was Tars.
Yeah,
It's like, Tars, go get her now. So he goes and picks her up.
Why weren't they just like,
And,
Tars,
yeah, why-
go get-
Yeah, why wasn't Doyle like immediately like as soon as Tars went out? If he would have like at that moment like booked it back to the ship, he would have made it and survived.
Well, he was right out the hatch.
He was right outside the hatch.
Yeah.
And the wave grabbed him and he couldn't get in.
But like when Tarzan's bringing Brandon, like he's at the thing.
Yeah.
So like I don't understand how he
Yeah,
didn't get
Well,
it.
he's like at the thing and then lets them get on board first.
Yeah.
And then that's his downfall because he should have just got in.
Yeah.
Because he could have got in and then they could have got in right after and everyone would have been saved.
Yeah.
But Doyle did the gentlemanly thing and paid the ultimate price for it.
Yeah, basically.
Ladies and robots first.
Ladies and monolithic robots first.
So that was the very first planet that they go to is Miller's planet, which they find
another
out.
side note on that planet, I wouldn't be out there walking because I hate not knowing if something like if there's a drop off. No, I'm good.
Yeah, how did they like? I mean, I'm sure Tars scanned the area, but it's like you're taking an awful big risk just landing your ship right there and just being like, oh, it's only like foot deep. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember if they
It's
specifically
just
scanned or
fun.
not, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's just like water across like thousands of miles, and it's just like, okay, well, how the hell you just step down and you're like, oh, it's only like a foot deep. Where the fuck did the waves come from that were the size of mountains if the water's only a foot fucking deep? Like, what the hell?
Well, not only that, because TARS had to like pick up the radar dish out of the water.
Yeah.
And then also like the wreckage of Miller's ship. So I have no idea.
I don't get it.
But
Probably one of those weird space
yeah.
timey things.
But as soon as they're like back on the rover, like arguing with each other, it's like, well, why didn't we know that this happened? It's like, well, she just crashed theoretically hours ago.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we sent them out 10 years ago. So like,
I mean, it would have been minutes.
yeah,
I think she Brand says that.
yeah.
Yeah, she said she probably only died minutes ago.
Yeah.
Which, where the hell's her body?
Yeah, who knows?
Washed away.
And then
Doyle just laying
I was waiting for him to like stand up or something.
Hey, guys, wait!
he'd have been
I
so
survived!
screwed if he did.
That'd been an interesting side story. I'm stuck on this planet. Surf's up, dudes.
There's just a colony of other human surfers, like the motorcycle.
Yeah, so they go back to the Endurance, and it's been 23 years since they left, and Romley is like, I gave up thinking you were coming back. Like, you said you were going to be 7 years. Like, it's been after 14 years, I was like, yeah, you're not coming back. You know, I thought you like abandoned me or something. But yeah, and then so because of that, the Endurance.
Oh wait, hold on, I missed that part.
What you missed it when he said I thought like he's like I gave up on you coming back.
I thought he was like joking.
No, he's like
I didn't know that he was on the Endurance for fucking
23
years.
years, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
How did you miss that part?
Well, no, because I thought that because I thought the Endurance was in orbit around Miller's planet.
Yeah.
So they moved with the planet, and that shouldn't affect Romilly or anything like that.
It was out of the time
Theoretically.
distortion. Because the whole
And
point.
they also said that when
Yeah,
building up to that.
Yeah, the whole point of
I
them
must have
doing
missed
that
that
was
quickly.
because Koopa's like, we can go into Miller's planet orbit and save fuel, but we'll lose a lot of time. So if we keep, the Endurance out of the time dilation, we'll lose fuel, but we'll save a fuck ton of time.
Yep. Yeah, I remember.
But obviously it didn't work because of what happened on Miller's planet. And he's like, he was there for 23 years and 5 months or something. And then he's like, yeah, I gave up hope on you guys coming back. I thought that you abandoned me. So, like, whenever... And then he's like, where's Doyle? It's like, obviously he's not here.
yeah.
So he
Do you
didn't make
see
it.
Doyle?
But because of that,
Doyle died 23 years ago.
the Endurance spending 23 years in orbit around Miller's planet, their fuel was cut drastically. So they only have options of visiting one more planet and heading back home, or visiting both planets and not going back home and doing Plan B, which we forgot to mention, which was egg fertilization to like repopulate, recolonize the inhabitable planet. So that's like the main story that we follow with them so far. And we get the messages from Tom, and then the last one is from Murph which this is like such a great moment of the movie for me when she's like, I didn't message you this whole time because I decided I was so mad at you when you left. I decided I wasn't going to message you, and I've lived with that choice. But today is my birthday, and it's a special birthday because when you left, you said when you come back, we might even be the same age. So I'm turning the age that you were when you left me, and now would be a great time for you to come back. I think that is like such a great like emotional point.
Yeah.
Because Cooper's like, he's been in space for 2+ years, and his daughter has aged to how old he was when he left. Like, that has to be like, he's like, I missed your entire fucking life.
Yeah, that's a mind.
Yeah, I mean that's just like it's a sacrifice. It's a huge sacrifice.
And then we follow Murph, who has she was very intelligent when she was younger, so she basically got...
And Professor Brand,
Yeah.
as he said, fanned the flame.
Yeah. take it into NASA's brain trust, and then she's a NASA scientist now, so she's trying to help Dr. Brand figure out the gravity puzzle, which he lied, and he knew was unsolvable, or at least he claimed was unsolvable.
Or no, he had this.
Well, he had the solution and came to the conclusion that it was impossible. So he basically fooled everybody, but that we don't get that realization until we meet Dr. Man.
That's later.
Dr. Brand tells Murph on his deathbed, it's like, I knew that, we weren't gonna work. It wasn't gonna work. And she's like, why would you do this? And he dies before
More specifically, Plan A wouldn't work.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, he was banking on Plan B the entire time, and he didn't even tell the pilots that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so Murph is like, did my dad know that it wasn't going to work? And he dies before.
No.
Did my dad know?
And he says that poem, "Do not go gentle into that good night, rage against the dying of the light," which I think is like, I really like that whenever they're first taking off from planet Earth and going into the wormhole. I was like, oh, that's nice. But then he repeats it a few times throughout the movie, and it gets a different meaning every single time. Because you're like, okay, this is to save humanity, rage, we will not die gently. We're gonna fight as hard as we can. And then on his deathbed, he's basically like, yeah, we have to give up. It's Plan B all the way. And with that knowledge, the words of that poem is just completely have a different meaning.
I forget what movie, some other movie or show used that really heavily, and I can't think of what it was. But every time they said it, I'm like, I know that I know the saying in general, but something else I watched used it too, and I can't think of what it was. But, yeah, so that reveal, I didn't see that coming.
Oh, the reveal of Dr. Man.
Yeah, it being a sham the whole time.
Well, not Dr. Man, but Dr. Brand.
Hold on. Oh, I thought we were getting...
Yeah, my mistake.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, my mistake. But yeah, so that transmission comes to them while they're on Dr. Man's planet. But,
right.
Well, I'm going to cut it back to whenever they're making the decision. As I said earlier, they only have enough fuel to make it to one planet and then back to Earth, or both planets, and they have to choose. And Coop knows that Dr. Brand is in love with Dr. Edmund because of a conversation they had earlier. And she's like, so the situation is that Dr. Man, his findings are not as promising as Dr. Edmund's findings are, but he is relaying a message like it is livable, come find us, come find me, and we'll do whatever. And Dr. Edmund, his transmission isn't as encouraging. His findings are, but his transmission isn't as encouraging. So Coop thinks it could be another situation like Miller's Planet, where the findings originally are good. There's water, there's sustainable life, but it could be another situation where they land and it's a total fucking disaster. So they're like, obviously Dr. Man knows that his planet is safe. We can go to that one for sure and know it's safe. Or we could take a gamble on Edmund and maybe it's safe, but his findings are better. And
they also don't know if he's even alive.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know if he's alive. And so he's like, well, let's vote. Me, you, and Romley are going to vote. And he's like, Romley, you should know something before we hold this vote, is that Dr. Brandon is in love with Wolf Edmund. And then he's like, is that true? And then Anne Hathaway goes on this whole spiel, which is, I'll admit, is a reason that I softened to the ending, because she's like, she says, love is a chemical reaction that you can measure, which it is, like serotonin in the brain and everything. It's there is a utilitarian use for love. So, there's a scientific use for love. So, I love Dr. Edmund. There's a reason for that. And it's that's what Coop says. There's a utilitarian use for it. And he's like, well, you love people that have died. What's the use of that? What's the scientific evolutionary use for that? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, well, I am in love with somebody that I haven't seen for 10 years, and I don't even know if he's alive. Like, that is a drawing force. Obviously, there's something to that.
Right.
And then after that, Coop's just like, we're gonna go see Dr. Man instead.
Yeah. Because we were sitting there, and she goes like on this whole like long-winded speech about like how love is something that transcends time and space and blah blah blah. And then before he even said it, he's like, I went, we're gonna go see Matt Damon. And that's exactly what happened. And she like says it, and he's like, okay, no. And then just
it's like, TARS set a course for Man's planet. And they go down. And immediately there's something off about the planet. Like, they go down, and it's cold and desolate.
Yeah,
the
clouds were frozen.
They break off a cloud upon entry of the planet. And then they revive Dr. Man, which he basically says, I've been here for years. I didn't know if my message was getting out, but I slept a few times, and then I woke up, just to do whatever. And then eventually I just stopped. Like, I didn't even put a wake-up date on my pod this time, so you guys literally brought me back from the dead. So, the Lazarus Mission was what the mission was called. Right. So basically, resurrection. And then we find out that Dr. Man had faked all of his findings so that they could come and rescue him. And it's funny because throughout the film, Dr. Brand and other people are like, oh, Dr. Man is the best of us. He's the most brave pilot. He decided this mission was the best, and he was the first man out. He's the most brave of all of us. And then we find out that he's such a coward. And he's like, he couldn't stand the fact that he was going to die alone. So he fooled an entire space station of pilots or astronauts to come down and save him. Yeah, what a
piece of shit.
Yeah, what a piece of shit. He basically almost doomed humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was too scared to not be able to see anybody again.
Yeah, so then they're like going to like set up base camp.
Yeah.
And then he like pushes Matthew McConaughey down. First he takes out his communicator, which, what the hell is up with that? Like, why would you build helmets with just a removable communicator? That just seems so irresponsible.
I don't know. I don't know enough about actual
plot device. I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely a plot device, but like he just goes click and just like takes it out like it's just like magnetically locking when he just goes.
He rips it out of his helmet and then just throws it down the canyon.
And then pushes him.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't strong enough, but I can't have you wasting that full fuel to go back to Earth. Because after they landed on this inhabitable planet, Coop was going to take the remaining fuel and head back to Earth because he wanted to see his family. And Dr. Man is like, I can't let you do that. We have to take this to Edmund's planet to repopulate the Earth. Like, I'm not going to let you doom humanity. Because he knew that they had the revelation that the gravity equation was, not possible. So they're like, yeah, Plan B was the plan the whole time. The only reason that they had Plan A was so that people they would stay motivated.
Have the hope.
Yeah, basically have hope. Because Dr. Man even says it. It's like, human beings are, they're animals that are capable of great compassion and self-sacrifice, but that purview barely, goes beyond their own eyesight, like their own tribe, like their kids and their immediate family. They're not going to try and sacrifice their lives in order to save humanity as a species. So They had to fool the entire human race so that they are able to save the human race.
Yeah. Which I think it would be a very difficult thing for anybody to actually do that. Like, you could say it that you would.
Yeah.
But
until you're actually there.
Yeah, would you?
Exactly.
I could answer. I could tell you that I could, do it, but I don't think anybody really could.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we see within Dr. Man and Dr. Brand. It's like, humans are fragile despite how much, boisterous they may be.
Yeah.
They all have their own flaws. But it's the thing about Dr. Man that always I find funny is even when he's like, he admits that he's a coward. Even when he does that, he's still kind of like putting on this persona of like this caring guy. Like, he's leaving Coop to die, literally to die, and like suffocating on ammonia because there's not enough oxygen in the air. And he's like, I thought I would have the strength to watch you go through this, but I can't. And he turns and he's like, don't worry, I'm here for you. Like, walking away. He's like, I'm here for you. I'm with you. You're not alone.
Okay, so how is he communicating if he threw away his communicator?
Because he put it... how was he?
I guess he can receive transmissions, but he isn't able to send them. That's a very good point. I didn't think about it. But for the sake of...
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because he also... Which I thought was just kind of comedic in a way. When he, like, is on top of him and he just goes...
Well, yeah.
And, like, breaks his helmet, but it's, like, comedic just because they're, like... It's like,
I love that scene because he's, like, cracking Coop's helmet and he's like, what are you doing? You know, you have a 50-50 chance of, like, killing your own self. And after he, like, actually makes a sizable crack in Coop's helmet, he stands up, he's like, those are the best odds I've had in years. He's like, I was doomed to die on this planet, but, like...
I had no chance. Now I have 50.
Yeah, those are the best odds I've had in years. You can tell that Dr. Man is up to something nefarious, too, like, before they go out and seek for where to land this base, because he's like, you have your two-way communicator on you? Yeah, of course. Is it, full of juice? Yeah. He's like planning on, like, how am I going to draw you out this far?
Yeah.
To,
Oh, you got your communicator?
dispose of you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right here.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
The biggest mistake Dr. Man did was turning off his communicator because he couldn't hear Coop suffocate to death.
Yeah.
And,
and then after Coop is yelling to the rest of them, he's like, fuck! Like, damn it!
Yeah, well, he doesn't...
He turns it back on.
He turns it back on after the explosion.
Yeah, and then he hears him say, like, get the hell out of there!
So I guess each astronaut was given, like, a defunct military unit, like repurposed military unit. We didn't see that on Miller's planet, but it could have just been destroyed in the crash too. But Dr. Man had Kip, which he deliberately dismantled so that people wouldn't be able to, like, go into the archival records and see that...
Find out that the planet is truly
unlivable. Because Romley's like, I forget what he needed from Kip, but I think it was... He needed some battery so that he could send TARS into the black hole to transmit back to Earth. Because they were still working under the assumption that Coop was going to fly home and he was going to drop TARS into the black hole to try and get, like, data to maybe solve the gravity equation. But, I think he needed something like that. And so Romley's, like, fixing Kip. And then, like, the data comes up on the screen. He's like, this doesn't make any sense. And I thought it was TARS, but Aaron says it was Kip, like, coming back, and he's like, Dr. Romley, get away! And then, like, he explodes.
Right.
Like, he was rigged to detonate if anybody reactivated him.
Yeah.
And upon the explosion, Dr. Man turns his communicator back on, and he hears Dr. Brand and Coop being like, Romley! Like, Dr. Brand's a liar! And then he takes the rover and basically tries to abandon them on the planet. Which is one of the best scenes in the movie for me, because he's unsecurely docks to the Endeavor, and he's, like, trying to be all, like, altruistic. He's like, this is for the fate of humanity, I'm doing this. What did he say to Dr. Brand comes over, like, the intercom, and is like, do not, like, it's not safe, dude, don't open the hatch. And he's like, Dr. Brand, I'm taking control of this mission. We can talk about what to do with Cooper afterwards, but there comes a moment, and then whenever he says that, he unlocks the airlock, and his ship explodes and blows, like...
Like, how did you not know it's not secure? Like,
well, I think that it...
Technically, it was docked, but it wasn't locked.
Yeah,
and it kept showing that, like, the locks weren't actually connected.
Yeah, it wasn't connecting. Yeah.
And he was manually overriding that.
Oh,
he basically directly overrid the safety protocols. Because
I guess there was an alarm going off for a minute. Yeah,
and then so he blows, like, a hole in the Endeavor, and then
sends it spinning.
Yeah,
I mean, that's great. I like that scene.
That was cool.
Oh, yeah, it's a great scene.
Like when Coop has to match the spin.
I was telling Aaron earlier, there's a scene like in that part of the movie, he's like I think Case is with him. He's like, Case, calculate the spin of the Endurance, and it's like 68 RPM. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna match it. Tars, get ready to dock. And then he's like going like crazy, and he's I forget, he's like slows down a little bit, and Case is like, Cooper, now's not the time for caution, which is something that Coop said to Case on the entry into the one planet, because it was a like basically like mirroring what happened to him on Earth whenever he was like feeling the plane like do its thing, and then like the computer shut down on him, and he was trying to do that. Case was trying to shut down. He's like, no, I gotta feel the air, you know. He's like, now's not the time for caution, Case. You gotta let me feel things. So I really like that Case was like, now's not the time for caution, Coop. We've got to stick this landing. And then he manages to dock it in one of the most beautifully shot scenes in the entire movie, with an excellent score by Hans Zimmer, just the brr, brr, brr. And then they dock, and then Tars straightens them out, and then because they're falling into orbit too as this is happening. So like they're gonna get sucked in by man's planet's gravity, and as soon as so Dr. Brand passes out because they're experiencing so much like gravity force. Yeah. That she was like,
she just goes limp.
She's like,
her arm was like.
And then the fact that Coop was able to like stay conscious this entire time.
The whole time he's like.
The big vein coming down his head.
And so as soon as that kicks up, he shoots it back out of orbit, and he saves everybody. Yeah. Which we haven't mentioned enough. The practical effects, like most of the film is practical effects. Like I told Aaron that yesterday, and he didn't believe me. But like Tars and Case, they're mostly practical. Oh wow. And all of the space stuff is mostly practical too. There's like YouTube videos online about how Christopher Nolan simulated like the look of a black hole and everything. But like the space stuff is mostly practical.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's
like not CG or.
I mean, like there's a little bit of computer stuff in it, but mostly it's just like in camera stuff. And it's like the man's brilliant. I gotta say.
No, he is. He's got quite the repertoire.
I mean, that shot up. I mean, now my Christopher Nolan knowledge probably ain't very vast, but like, I mean, this shot up there, this might be my favorite Nolan film that I've ever seen.
Not even Batman.
Well, I was thinking that in my head, and I'm like, I mean, The Dark Knight's awesome, but like, it's not this kind of ride, you know?
Yeah, that's very true.
It's a whole different type of ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the practical effects, just the visuals and the score, it's like matched perfectly. Like like everything about the movie, the acting, like it's excellent. And the only thing that falters for me is the story near the end of the movie. If it wasn't for that nonsense, I'd probably get this like 5 out of 5. It is nonsense. It's all like based in science until that last bit, and then it's like all science fiction.
It is very jarring. Like as much as I did enjoy it, it's very jarring because I watched it with the other Aaron, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Like he goes into the black hole, and like before the bookshelf and all that showed up, I was like, "Is he just gonna like pop up back and like?" Before, like, right after he left.
I said to Shawn, I don't know if you've ever watched the movie before, but 2001: A Space Odyssey.
No, I've never watched it.
I feel like Nolan, like, loved that movie, and he was like, I want to make something almost like that, but not as trippy. Like,
this is pretty...
Well, no. Watch 2001. Oh, okay. You'll be like, what the fuck? Especially at the end. Yeah. The end of that movie. That last 15 minutes of that movie is what the fuck. But, like... But, like, I said this to Shawn, too. I was like, I really feel like he was trying to, like, take bits and pieces and make his own big masterpiece like that. Which he did. He succeeded. But, like, the TARS and Case units are, like, the monolith mixed with HAL 9000. Except they actually have, like, actual personalities versus HAL 9000.
I think that TARS might be one of the best characters in the movie.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And he's a fucking robot.
Yeah, he's just a robot.
And not even like a robot. He's just like a monolith that moves like a Rubik's cube.
Yeah,
And I love how he has like smaller pieces so he can like grab stuff.
yeah.
Like when he grabs Brand.
And then rolls his
Oh,
way
and
back
when
to
they
the ship.
when they're moving fast, it's amazing.
Yeah, Livy was very uncomfortable at the galloping that it does coming out of coming out of Dr. Man's ship. And it does. It looks fucking creepy.
It does.
At first you're like, oh no, don't let that thing on the ship. Do not let that up there. I actually thought that there was gonna be, but that would have been too cliche. That like one of the robots would like do some shifty shit.
Oh yeah.
In case,
I mean,
like,
that-
hey,
that's-
sorry, I got protocols.
Yeah, I
that
mean
gotta
that's
follow.
that's your base instinct with something like this, but
Both the robots were.
Case and Tars are solely dedicated to the mission.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention one of the funniest lines because it's before they go into their sleep upon their slingshot around Saturn to make it into the wormhole.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Brand and Cooper like having a conversation about like the different pilots that went through the wormhole already 10 years ago, and they bring up Dr. Brand, and this is whenever he like scopes that she has a thing for him, and
Or Edmund.
yeah, Edmund, yeah, my mistake. And then Koopa's like whispering to Tars, and he's like, did Edmund and Brand? He's like, why are you whispering? They can't hear you.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, did Edmund and Brand, did they have a thing? And he's like, oh no, not that I know of. And he's like, okay, is that the 90% honesty or the 10% honesty? And he's like, I have a what is it? A discrepancy percentage too. And he's like, yeah, but not a good poker face slick. And it's funny because Tars is just like literally like a slate.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking monolith that walks around.
Yeah, they gave Tars a humor setting. So he's like, as they're taking off, he's like, oh, I've got yep, everything seems green. I have enough human slaves for my robot colony.
Yeah. And Coop's like, what the fuck? And then Doyle's like, oh yeah, put its humor.
He's like, Tars, what's your humor percentage at? 100%. Knock it down to 75%.
Knock knock. Yeah, he's like telling jokes.
Yeah, that's at the very end.
Yeah.
But that's a great scene too. But so the Endurance is finally on the path to, because they know now that the only chance for them to save humanity is to make it to Edmund's planet. So the Endurance is on its way to Edmund's planet. They're like, we're worried we're not going to have enough fuel. So, like, Coop is such a crackpot, like, pilot. He's like, we can use the gravitational pull of Gargantua to slingshot us to Edmund's planet, conserving fuel. We're going to lose, like, 200 years of, like, Earth time, though. So we really hope that by the time that you make it to Edmund's planet, that there are still going to be humans on Earth to save. And in order to do that, they have to drop Tars out, so that they have to drop weight from the Endurance. And as they're flying past, they drop Tars into the black hole. And he's like, see, catch you on the other side, Slick. Which you'd think Brand would be like, why would he say that? And then they're cresting off of Gargantua, and Case is like, all right, ready to drop Rover 2. And she's like, what? You can't do that? Because Coop is in the second Rover.
Right.
He's like, remember, we said 90% honesty, and he drops into the black hole. And then the nonsense starts.
Which, when you went into the black hole, this is another, like, 2001 A Space Odyssey thing, because, like, in the movie, there's a huge monolith that Dave ends up, and he's in the pod.
Yeah.
So, like, he ends up, like, going up to the monolith and then seeing, like, the stars all through it, and then he ends up tripping balls. Which I thought that that's what this was going to be. Like, he got into the black hole, it was all going to be, like, trippy and shit like that. But then I thought, why would Nolan do that? That seems a little too predictable for his taste. And then, no, he ends up in a bookcase.
Yeah.
In different times in space.
So that's the whole thing throughout the film, is they say they sent the wormhole, and they are responsible for the gravity anomalies that are, like, telling them basically, like, the Earth is fucked. And they never find out who they is. And then
Who they is.
yes, yeah, who they is. And then, so Coop is in the black hole. He's, like, past the event horizon. He's inside it, and then he winds up in, like you say, a bookcase, which is a distortion of space-time. And
Because there's like billions of them.
Yeah.
It just stretches on forever in each direction.
They're just different time periods.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
and and then Tars gains recommunication with Coop. He's like, they constructed a 3-dimensional space so that you could understand space-time. Like, basically, like, you could navigate through space-time in order to give them a message. And they said, oh, they didn't pick me. They picked my daughter because she's going to be the one that's going to save humanity. And we find out that Cooper is the gravity anomaly that's happening within their house. And he says that the power of love brought him here, and that's the part where I just like, oh,
That's the power of love.
that's the power of love. But I like I said, I softened it a little bit, just because it's an emotional story and it makes
My
sense.
question is, how the fuck did he get back?
Yeah, we don't know. And then
So he just wakes up and he's like, oh, hey. And they're like, yeah.
he wakes up orbiting Saturn like 100 years from now or some shit. But yeah, they say he's 124 years old.
Did they
Well,
after showing him,
yeah.
Did they just shoot him
I
out
guess.
that black hole, back out the wormhole, and then somebody picked him up or something? I mean,
Basically.
Yeah, that's the only that's the one thing of the movie that isn't outrightly explained.
I was gonna say, do you think that they had launched the silo and everything, and then at the perfect time, they're coming up and they're like, "There's the wormhole," and he goes, and a ship comes out, and they're like, "Oh my god!" They're like, they're like, "There's Cooper's ship," and they're like, "All right."
Well, he wasn't even in the ship.
Yeah, he wasn't even in the
He
ship.
he ejected from this ship.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he was literally just floating in his spacesuit. He was in his spacesuit.
Does he just get launched out? He's
They whenever they pick him up, they're like, "We're lucky we found you because you only had 20 minutes left of oxygen." But yeah, so he is responsible for the anomaly, Tars gets all of the gravitational science that he needs in order to make the gravitational equation work, and he's like, translate that to binary and then give it to me, and he manipulates the second hand on the watch that he gave Murph in order to they were going to be able to be oh, time's going to move differently for me when I'm there, so we'll be able to check the difference in lapse of time whenever I get back.
and then it's like a Morse code.
Yeah.
thing.
So I have one thing to say. The information that Tars had to have collected, it has to be astronomical, right?
Mhm.
And then that's digitized to Morse code. And Coop is doing that. He had to have been there for 10 hours.
Oh, yeah.
This is the information given.
Yeah.
It's just dot dash dot dot dash dot dash dash.
Yeah.
And it's he had that is an insane amount of information that they
Yeah,
would
because
have
then
to-
she goes into NASA and erases the board and starts from scratch based on no, and mind you, this is just a watch flickering. What if you write down something wrong and you're just oh, that doesn't work? It's quick, Dad, tell me the watch again.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't understand Morse code in general, so I was like, sure, that works.
Yeah. I mean, my point being, it would take a very long time.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. For him to for Tars to be oh, here's the solution, and instead because they can't transmit it back to Earth anyway,
Mhm.
it's oh, we have to set this via fucking Morse code on a watch of all things. How long do you think she sat there
Yeah,
looking at that watch
It is
okay.
a lot of effort for sure.
How do you know when the start point is?
Yeah, what if she wasn't paying attention to the watch and it gave gave half the equation? She's like, oh, what the fuck? And then starts writing it down. And she's like, this is only half the equation. I don't even know what the first part is.
What do I do with this? But yeah, so ignoring that stupid shit.
I mean, that's nitpicky.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it is. I'll admit that.
It's very nitpicky.
Ignoring that, so she was given the equation in order to solve the gravity equation to save humanity, and Coop was spit out back in orbiting Saturn. I guess like 100 years later, 80 years later.
Holy fish face. It's a guy.
Because whenever they pick Coop up and he's in the hospital, it's like, oh, you're lucky to be alive. Well, for your age, you're 124 years old. And it's like, oh, where am I? And he's like, oh, you're on Coop Station. It's like, oh, that's a nice of you to name it after me. And the nurse is just like laughs in his face. And it's like, oh, we didn't name it after you, sir. We named it after your daughter. And so she is humanity's savior. And then
Which is just kind of like you could have argued it. Yeah, she wouldn't have had that damn equation if it weren't for me. I was in the bookcases moving shit. That's how she got all that info. It should be named after me.
I was a ghost.
But yeah, so they reconstruct. Well, they're like on the silo, right? Because they're currently orbiting Saturn, and presumably.
Okay, so that was a ship.
Yeah,
that whole thing.
That was. I'm pretty sure that was like a part of the silo that they like.
Okay.
Yeah, because he looks out and it's like a big
Yeah.
rotating.
Yeah, it's like a cylinder, which is a really cool shot.
No, it is a cool shot, and I guess I just wasn't following what they were on.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of Yorktown.
Yeah.
From Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah.
And the Halo ring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like that.
But yeah, so they're like in a space station essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
With the fake sun.
Yeah, with the fake sun.
And their house.
Well, no, they're positioned so that the sun from the other galaxy is like giving them energy.
Oh, okay.
Like, so they're positioned in a way that they can peer into the wormhole to harvest the new sun.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And their house is a museum.
Yeah.
In the big giant cylinder.
Yeah. So like,
which is kind of
and
weird.
I forget where they said that TARS got spit out at, but he was basically mangled, and he's like, well, we found this too. If he's like, I'm repairing him, so he like manages, like, he's fixing TARS and everything, and he's like giving him different parameters. He's like, honesty parameter 95%, humor parameter 75%. He's like, destruction sequence initiated.
He thinks we're gonna take it down to 60. Then he goes knock knock.
He's like, do you want 55? It's like threatening a robot. But yeah, so he fixes TARS, and then Murphy is shipped there basically. They said she was in cryosleep for 2 years because she's very old. And whenever he meets her, she's like the age that Donald was, if not older, whenever he left Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh my god. Like, and then they connect, and it's like, he's like, I'm gonna be here for you. And she's like, you don't need, I have my kids to take care of me now. And then I want you to go to Dr. Brand, because she's all alone on Edmund's planet, like trying to colonize this planet for our new home. So she could use somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess they were just working under the assumption that Wolf Edmund died, like...
Well, yeah, and then...
Well, we find
out that he is indeed
dead. We see that he does die, so... And then the movie ends with him going, like, stealing a ship, and then I guess he would have to travel through the wormhole and then on to Edmund's planet. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. So what would... nobody knows. I was gonna say, what... How do we know, like, what... How much time has passed for Brand?
Yeah, we have no idea.
Right?
We'll find out in Interstellar too.
Well, I guess it would be relatively the same time that he would show up, because whenever they were crashing through the black hole, they said that they wasted like 300 or 135 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And Murph obviously is not going to live that long.
Mm-hmm.
So like, she probably is... Yeah, she's probably still alive. She probably just made it there, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
So, colonizing the planet, and then he goes off.
Make a damn sequel.
Maybe.
Interstellar 2. Trilogy.
Yeah, but like I said, upon this rewatch, I've definitely softened to the movie. I felt very strongly about it back in 2014. About how I felt like it just like tripped at the finish line every single time.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe that they would do something so fucking stupid. But like now, upon rewatching it, I'm giving it a little bit more leeway. And
2014, Shawn was like, I can't believe they fell flat on their fucking face at the finish line, and then Rise of Skywalker came out. Like, you know what? You know
It
what?
could have been worse.
This could have been a whole Interstellar's not that bad now that I think about it.
That's funny.
But yeah, I'm glad that you guys liked it.
Yeah, no, it was very good. Very good. I haven't really ever been disappointed by a Nolan movie. This just wasn't high on my list of movies to watch that year.
You know what? Come to think of it, Aaron, I didn't like Dunkirk that much, so maybe.
I didn't like Dunkirk. You know what? That's the one. That's the one.
So maybe I should go back and revisit Dunkirk, and I'll appreciate it in a new light because I thought that movie was boring as fuck.
I think we all were just flat out bored by Dunkirk.
I never did see it.
I
think I own it out there, actually.
Because, like, there was just 4 different storylines going on. He needed to just make that, like, an anthology movie. And have, like, 4 parts.
Yeah.
That would have been fine. I actually probably would have enjoyed that more. But, like, they just kept, like, cutting back and forth between everything that was going on. And you're like... But there's nothing going on, is the problem.
Anyway,
I forgot that was a Nolan movie.
It was.
Correction, I have been disappointed by 1 Nolan movie.
All right.
You get 2 more, Nolan. Then I never watch another one of your movies again.
Do we have anything else to say about it?
I don't.
All right.
I mean, yeah, that's basically it.
We're into ratings.
So back in 2014, I probably would have rated this like a 5 out of 10, just because I loved everything until the very ending. So that it crushed the entire feeling for me. But now I've softened to it. I think I'm gonna give it a 7, maybe a 7.5 out of 10, because, like I said, the acting is amazing. The visuals are incredible. The score is incredible. And the story until the last portion of the movie is also, I think it's very compelling. It tells a great human story. And yeah, so aside from the nonsense black hole stuff, I think it's an excellent movie.
I will echo your 7.5. 7.5 traitorous Matt Damons out of 10.
I thoroughly enjoyed this, so I'm actually going to go higher than you guys, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
I almost gave it an 8. Almost gave it an 8.
I really enjoyed it.
I feel passionately about it, clearly, and it's edging close to an 8, but for the sake of my past self, and I still do have major issues with the ending.
Right.
I just can't. I can't make it that. I can't edge that close to it.
I can't do it. I physically will not allow myself to.
Yeah, I will not allow that to happen.
How did we almost go a whole hour talking about this movie and not mention that there was an appearance by Venom?
That's true. Yeah, Super Grace does show up.
Oh yeah, that's right. I actually was gonna bring that up, and then we just glossed over that.
I mean, he's irrelevant, really.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like a scientist too.
He might be the father of her children. I don't know.
I imagine.
Yeah, I imagine too. He gets he almost gets to beat up Casey Affleck, except Casey Affleck would just murder him. I'm pretty sure.
Despite being like
a
foot shorter than him.
I really hated the son.
Oh, I forgot to mention this. Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet
played his son.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that. We were watching it, and then Tom starts saying something. I was like, "Is that Timothy Chalamet?" And then it showed him. I was like, "Motherfucker, it is!" I can't believe it.
I asked you.
I have no idea what that is.
You said that he was in it coming up, but Google the cast lists Samuel L. Jackson. Where the fuck was he?
Oh, I didn't know he was in the movie. I don't know.
It said that he was in it.
I have no idea.
Oh,
yeah. I was and then I said to you, I was like, "When Sam Jackson show up?" And you're like, "Soon." And then he never showed up. I was like, "What?"
I thought you were joking.
No,
no,
I
didn't know.
I was not joking.
Well, while we find that out,
yeah, we gotta look this up, dude.
thanks, guys, for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation
I have
about
to pick a movie.
Interstellar. I'm gonna get there.
Okay, take two. I thought we did that after I.
Well, whatever. It's fine.
If you don't want to be spoiled by Mike's pick, which is
Yeah. So, thanks for watching. We have another recommendation coming to us by Mike.
As I'm looking
If
up
you're so
Sam
antsy
Jackson.
about it.
Fancy about it. I don't see Sam Jackson on this list.
Yeah, you're full of shit.
he popped up for me. I'm telling you.
Anyway, my pick is I left the page because Sam Jackson. I don't know the year, but Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay. Nice.
I've never seen that movie.
I've only seen parts of it. I don't think I've seen the whole thing. So, yeah, I'm excited. Well, now that we have our recommendation, thank you guys for watching and listening.
Now it's gone.
The fuck? To our Interstellar conversation. We sure enjoyed having it. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you don't want to be spoiled for Beverly Hills Cop, before next time, make sure to watch it. We will be having a spoiler discussion about it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Murph! Don't let me go, Murph!